Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start with a story in which an awful manager wanted to present our OP's ideas as his own. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Don't be surprised if I hold out on you. A few years ago, I had an absolutely awful manager who was a micromanaging idiot. At one point, both he and I were going to attend a meeting with the sales team to run down what we thought our product did better than our main competitor. A few days before that meeting, he emailed me and point-blank asked me to tell him all the ways in which our product was better so that he could present them as his own research. Well, I'd worked hard on assembling my presentation, and I wasn't giving it all up that easily, so I replied with a few little wisps of information, some freebies, made it seem like I hadn't given the matter that much thought. The day of the meeting arrives, and he presented this information proudly to the sales team. The big boss asked if anyone had anything else to add, and I casually said yes, and delivered a lengthy, in-depth presentation that was very enthusiastically received by the team. The manager's jaw dropped. He was stunned. He realized he'd been played, but he knew he couldn't complain or discipline me without admitting that he'd tried to steal all my ideas. For a myriad of reasons, he was fired a few months later. Managers who constantly hog the limelight come across as insecure at best, narcissistic at worst. They usually don't last long. And our second story. You need to be trained properly. It's me again from your local feed and supply store. Sometimes our website has sales which don't translate to in-store sales, just like we have in-store sales that don't translate over to the website, aka online-only sales. A couple weeks ago, a lady, L, brought up a couple of mouse traps or something. L, these are on sale on your website for like $7 or something. I rang them up, and sure enough, they rang up full price. I pulled out my phone to look them up because sometimes there are discrepancies. In this case, it was indeed an online-only sale, meaning she had to buy them online to get the sale price. Me, ma'am, it looks like this is an online sale. Our management does not even honor online-only prices, but I decided to give her the discount. As I was changing the price to be nice to her, oh, so you don't match your site like every other store I go to? I then decided not to. I'm not going to go out of my way to break the rules for someone to be rude. Not when it's online only, no. I don't make the rules or the prices, I just follow them. However, you can pay for it online really quickly and take them out the door for the sale price. Nah, I'll just buy them. Okay, problem solved. Until L storms into the store to my coworker. You need to train your coworker over there on how to charge prices because I just bought this again outside of my car and I need to get my money back for the first time. Coworker, yeah, online only means online only. We can't really do anything about that. It's to promote online sales. Well, she's incompetent at her job. She either needs to be fired or trained. So I say, do you know something about my job that I don't? Come show me, and I'll be glad to learn from you. With a huge smile. Lady leaves the store in a fit of rage. I give her the most annoying, "Have a nice day," I've ever said or heard in my life. Store manager walked in as she was leaving, and she complained to him, but he literally just laughed at her and walked past. Should have said I was gonna bend the rules and override the price for you, even though it's not our policy. But since you're being rude, I can't do that now. And our next story. Take my trash can and replace it with yours. Nope. I live in a unit complex. There are 20 units with an assortment of entitled, crazies, and petty people, with me being the pettiest of the bunch. There are up and downstairs units, with each downstairs unit having a red bin, green bin, and yellow recycling bin, and the upstairs units having a red and yellow bin. Here's the problem with the bins. My neighbors are selfish and entitled, which is why every downstairs unit has their own green bin now instead of the one green bin we used to share. A story for another day. There are 20 units, but only 10 allocated parking spots, which causes another problem with the bins. The only place to put the bins for collection is along the street where my neighbors park their cars. Because of this, my bins aren't always collected because there was a car impeding the truck. Annoying, but whatever, it is what it is. Until last week when I was late to collect my bins, When I went out to get it, my red bin was there, empty, but my yellow bin had been replaced with a full yellow bin, complete with a sticker from council saying they won't collect it because it's full of trash. So not only did I not have my bin, but I couldn't use it as it's full to the brim with their trash. I've been stewing on this all week until yesterday when my pettiness got the better of me. I went around the units in search of my bin and found it. They didn't even try to change the unit number, so the search didn't take long. The type of person they are was very telling when I saw the state of their backyard. As quietly and discreetly as possible, I took my bin and replaced it with theirs. But not before drawing a massive smiley face with a Sharpie on the top of their bin to share the love. There's something so satisfying in managing to get your bin back from the neighbor who's stolen them. And our last story. Think about if you want to be employed here. Will do, boss. I worked for Target on their overnight team, 10 p.m. to 6:30 a.m., and eventually a specialist position came up for which I applied and was granted. This was the position of receiver, scheduled to work 6 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., which basically was the person who would take in vendor orders, i.e. not things that were sent straight from corporate, but instead the Coca-Cola guy or the Lay's potato chip guy, etc., and specialty orders that came in at times other than the main truck. This was a job where instead of one major task, you dealt with about 20 minor ones throughout the day, and your day varied based on the whims of the people who are bringing you things to do. We had a delivery cutoff at 12 p.m., but management would always say, just take things no matter when they came. I generally was really good about managing my time and making sure if I needed to stay late for something important, I did, and if it was something minor, say a Harlequin romance book that could wait overnight to process, I'd get it first thing in the morning. I had a good rapport with my boss and got great reviews. Then my boss got a promotion, and my new boss was a piece of crap. The new boss, we'll call him John, because that was his name. F you, John. He was a tyrant of the pettiest type. He'd wonder why things were left overnight when I wasn't busy earlier in the day when he saw me, because I'd completed all my tasks and can't make UPS come faster than they do. When Target's corporate told my department it was busy enough for a 20-hour-a-week worker, he refused to let me get anyone for longer than my 30-minute lunch breaks. The straw that broke my back was P-Fresh. For those of you who didn't work at Target in the early 2000s, P-Fresh was what they called their new initiative to have groceries in the stores. It was a big deal for them, and my store was one of the pilot stores in our area. I'd be the first person to have to deal with it, and then I'd have to teach receivers in the area how it works by having them shadow me for a day at my store and me at theirs when they got their fresh food. The fresh food came in a separate truck that arrived at 4 a.m. I expected, like I was informed, I would simply have to process it first thing in the morning when I got to work. Instead, John decided that my schedule was going to be changed to 4 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Getting up at 3 a.m. to be at work at 4 a.m. was not fun, but I dealt with it because I was a team player. However, John still insisted I needed all of my work done by the time I left at 12:30 p.m., an impossibility when the cutoff for deliveries was 12 p.m. I still prioritized things as good as I could, and nothing urgent was left undone for more than 24 hours, when Target was pretty good at making sure we had plenty of time to receive things before they had to hit the floor for street dates and such. The straw that broke my back was when the specialist position was terminated. Basically, Target wanted those specialist positions in the normal chain of command, which is fine. However, when they did this, they also gave lots of power to John. You see, it was my old position that I had weekends off, because people don't deliver on the weekends, and was not required to work holidays, along with being a guaranteed 40-hour-a-week Monday through Friday position. When this change came through, HR informed us that we had a week to decide whether we wanted the position or if we wanted to go into another position in the company, or if we wanted severance. HR informed me that nothing would really be changing with my job because it was still important, whereas other jobs like the jewelry counter weren't considered as important and were being rolled in with other things. I was going to stay with the position until John brought me into the office later that day. He told me he was tired of my poor attitude involving getting things done, so he was changing my schedule back to a split shift. Basically, he wanted me to come in from 4 to 5 a.m., then go home for an hour, then come back at 6 a.m. and work until 1:30 p.m. He also told me that overtime would no longer be allowed and that I'd have to start working 1 weekend a month and holidays. He also wrote me up for something I didn't do, but the person who covered my lunches did. He also wrote me up for something that I didn't do, but the person who covered my lunches did, under the guise of me not training them properly. His words were, "You need to think long and hard about how you're working and think about if you want to be employed here in a month." I told him he was absolutely right. I told him I'd be right back. I had to run to the restroom. Instead, I went to HR and told them I'm taking the severance, and as it was 12:25 p.m., I'm guessing this is my last day. I then got to go back to John and tell him what I just said. He told me that I had to come back next week to train my replacement. I walked out of that building happier than I'd been in the last 3 years working there. I got texts over the next few months of the fallout. The receiving department was a effing nightmare for months. And since I was the only one who knew how to handle their refrigerated trucks, they lost an entire truck worth of merchandise that week. That was not a good look for them. Additionally, corporate had to send out people from out of the area to cover all of the training I was supposed to provide, which cost them a lot of money and made corporate even more pissed at John. Last I heard, he'd been let go, and the next place he worked fired him for harassment. I had a month's vacation, and then I took a new job. I was happy as a clam. Funny how it's a recurring theme around here. People quit bosses way more than they quit jobs. Good on you, OP. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.